It is a great day on the internet, everybody. Welcome to Assemble. I am Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, everybody, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. Why? Because it is Top Shelf Tuesday. If you're new to the channel, here's what we do. Every single Tuesday, we are going to rank, judge, critique any kind of list that we feel like. And today, you guys have voted, and we are gonna be covering the Avengers movies on this Top Shelf Tuesday. We're gonna rank these guys from hero to good to fine to just okay. Now we're only doing the Marvel Avengers movies, folks. I got the list that's gonna show everybody. What we're doing is we're just gonna capture those movies and might be a little bit of controversy in this one because I'm going to also include Civil War. Because it's basically Avengers 2.5, right? Come on, it's the 2.5 to third Avengers movie in the whole thing. They're all in it. It's Captain America Civil War, but it is basically Avengers movie. Anyways, let's get right into Top Shelf Tuesday right now. Let's rank Avengers number 1, shall we? So, Avengers 1. So obviously that this is going to be pretty high up in the list. Now, when Avengers first came out, the original movie, I think that for most of us, this was something that was just, hasn't been done before. It blew our minds, blew my mind, because it was actually seeing all of these amazing characters come to life in the exact same spot. The scene towards the end, I think, is what got me the most. And what I mean is the giant battle in New York, where they are all coming together, and you're seeing that transition flow from like Hulk and Hawkeye and Iron Man and Black Widow and them sweeping and moving and flying around, and it all was like one seamless transition. That for me did it. I was done. I mean, I was hooked on the movie to begin with, but that blew me away and took it to the next level. And it separated it for me from all the other Marvel movies that we've come to know in terms of just the expanded universe. The X-Men movies in the past, the previous Spider-Man movies that we have had. This took things to a completely other level. I absolutely adore the movie. When you go back and watch it now though, guys, like you tell me, but I always find them like, the suits, like, yeah, it's very early on in the Avengers universe, the MCU itself. So I feel like Captain America is scrawny. He's not as jacked as he ends up being in like Infinity War and Endgame. But his suit looks kind of funny. It's very basic. Iron Man is Iron Man, and we've already had the Iron Man films leading up to this point. I mean, Thor's got his long hair in this. He's still kind of figuring out Thor as that fun character that he developed and he grew into. I mean, Black Widow we had seen in the previous films, and Hulk, again, was still trying to become Hulk as we know him. So being very early on in the entire universe, I think that Avengers number 1 is good. I give it that good ranking because it's the first one. It's the first one, so we have a little bit of nostalgia already for this film. I think they did a very commendable job for what it was. We had a story building out throughout. We led to a giant climax. The characters were already flushed out to this point that we became familiar enough with them that we were ready for this kind of movie. So Avengers 1 is going to be good. Avengers 2, Age of Ultron. Now this one gets a lot of flack for being like not okay to fine, like people are good. Well, not even good. A lot of people rank Avengers 2 Ultron really low. I've gone back, guys, and I've rewatched this very recently. I actually really like Age of Ultron. We get the introduction of Scarlet Witch. Ultron is goofy, and this is probably the one big criticism that I do give this movie. It's got a little bit of issues with the plot and the pacing, I feel. However, I did like that we introduced Ultron. I thought that we had already that relationship built up with the Avengers, so it was fun to see them all kind of come together again. The piece with Ultron though, and we get Vision out of all of this, it's a good origin story. However, I thought that it was a little clunky having Ultron be kind of comical and not being this dastardly robotic AI supervillain that like he is in the comic books and he's portrayed elsewhere. I was hoping that Ultron was going to be this next level villain, and they made him kind of dorky in some instances. I know that he's a combination of AI and Tony and all this stuff and Bruce, but like I felt like it was trying to make him too human when he should have been an even bigger threat than he was. Great action scenes though. And if you go back and rewatch this, and if it has been a while and you're kind of thinking you got a bad taste in your mouth, I recommend you go back and rewatch Age of Ultron. I think you'd be surprised how well it's kind of put together as just a fun post-Avengers 1 movie. Like, it doesn't live up to Avengers 1 in my opinion, because I think everyone had really high expectations, and when we did get number 2, it kind of felt a little bit flat in comparison, but I still think that it did a relatively good job. This is a reminder too, guys, that what I want you to do is hang on and watch the rest of the episode, because we're having a little teaser that's going on, because there's going to be a little piece of information that's going to drop about something that's classified that we're going to get going and we're going to talk about later on in the show. So stay tuned all the way through, because you're going to see what it is and you don't want to miss it. So if we are going to go ahead and rank this, I'm actually going to put number 2. I was actually going to say it's good. It's not hero level, obviously. That we're going to save for a little bit. I am actually going to say that, yeah, I'm going to say that Avengers 2 is fine. It's a good, solid movie like we've talked about. I mean, if we ranked all the other MCU movies, obviously this list would get crazy. But I'm going to say Avengers 2 is fine. So it's definitely going to be below Avengers 1. Captain America Civil War. This to me is that Avengers 2.5 film, Avengers 3 movie that they wanted to do, but it fell under the timeline and the umbrella of a Captain America story. Civil War is, for me, one of the best Avengers films. It's certainly an amazing Captain America story, but it is a great, great film that ties in all of the characters. It felt like it could have been a 2-film arc on its own. To be honest, I almost wish that the MCU broke Civil War up into its own like 2-3 part movie, like we've had with Infinity War and Endgame. There's so much in there, guys, as a full story, how complex it is, and complex in terms of the story arc of the Civil War, coming from the comics itself. Like, you were seeing an entire backstory of multiple characters introduced and involved in the Civil War. You're dealing with sides of the government as well as the heroes themselves. You've got 2 sides to all of this. I think you really could have fleshed this out even more. I love Civil War, and primarily because we do get that introduction of Spider-Man into the MCU and away from Sony. That was a huge moment for all of us to actually stand back and go, wow, they did it. We're getting Spider-Man in the MCU. That moment when he web slings and they're at the airport, you could rewatch that all day long. And I think that's a testament to how great the film is. We may say that Winter Soldier is the better of the Captain America films, or one of the best all-time Avengers movies in total of the MCU. But as a almost 2.5, 3.0 Avengers movie where you're seeing like all of the characters brought in, introduced, fighting against each other. One, I think that we could have seen this brought out into a larger story arc of 2 films. Maybe it would have replaced the Age of Ultron story, and instead we would have gotten Civil War and spaced that out. That would have been me. I did love it for what it was. So if we're gonna rank Civil War, guys, I'm gonna have to put Civil War up as in the good category. I think it's as good, if not better, than Avengers 1. But I'm going to put these 2 side by side because we did get such a great introduction and story of bringing all these characters together in Avengers 1. And I think that we're getting this complete contrast of all these movies splitting across this entire history that we were starting to build into, leading up into Civil War. And I think it's just a great film overall. So I'm giving it good. Okay, next up is one that I'm very, very excited for. Infinity War. Infinity War is arguably my favorite MCU movie as a whole, because I loved how it set up everything for Endgame. I love Endgame. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a 1 in 1A situation, folks, for me. I feel like I can rewatch either film, but I feel like I was way more invested. And as I've gone back and rewatched both movies a bunch of times, I'm way more captivated by every single character's development in Infinity War. I love the opening fight scene with Doctor Strange and Iron Man in the city. I love the dynamic of Thor and getting his axe. I love how they built out all the characters and the climax and the like crescendo that it leads to at the very end. And seeing that in theaters for the first time, the biggest thing that hit me was, wow, they did it. They let the villain win to set up a bigger film in the end. And again, that's why I'm like, it's 1A, 1 to 1A. Like, you can flip a coin, and even the day of the week, I'd probably flip and say I love Endgame more, and here's why. Hey everybody, if you are new to this show, do me a favor and hit the notification bell, subscribe if you enjoy the content, leave some comments below, because what we do every single week is we have Top Shelf Tuesday, which is this show that you're watching right now. We have our weekly unboxings of statues and figures every single Wednesday, and we have our community Q&A show every single Friday called Free For All Friday, where we take your questions from the community, we discuss them, we bring it out, we have a great time. So if this is the type of content you like, then consider subscribing and hitting the bell so you get updates for all the shows that we do. That's 3 shows every single week, talking about anything from movies to games, as well as our primary piece of business, which is always going to be our unboxings and our reviews. So Infinity War, I've rewatched, I love it. I absolutely am going to give it hero status. Infinity War is just an amazing film beginning to end. The character development, having Thanos in there and understanding where he's coming from a character perspective, that you almost don't hate Thanos. Yes, he's the bad guy. Yes, he's destroying the galaxy, but the way he's approaching it is the way I wish that other films treated their large villains. And what I mean is, an example would be like Magneto. I wish they gave the Thanos treatment to somebody like Magneto. Where, I mean, they kind of do in the X-Men movies, but I don't, and they had so much more time to develop it. Magneto was trying to pursue the goal of having, like, you know, mutants first, and his hatred for humans and the government and so on. He's kind of like Thanos in that regard, but they just did such a better job in one film. Yes, we had sneak peeks and end credit scenes with Thanos, but this full out introduction of Thanos in one movie to start with, we understood his motivation, we understood what was behind it, we understood his relationship with Gamora. Like, we built out so much within one single film of Thanos the villain that you were almost like, I want more. I could do a whole movie just on Thanos, because you see where he's coming from. As terrible as it is, you understand his perspective. That's what I find very, very, like, encapsulating and driving me in as a viewer, which sets up an amazing film and arguably an even better film for a lot of us in Endgame. This is why I'm giving Infinity War the hero status. And last up, everybody, Endgame. Endgame is not okay. It's just a joke. Come on, guys. You know that I'm not going to do that to you. Is it fine? Boy, you would just rip me apart and rip me a new one, wouldn't you? No. Endgame is going right up there for hero status. They work together. They were shot as one large film. We got 2 out of this. They treated the time travel aspect with thought and care and gave it the right direction it needed, as something that is very difficult to communicate to viewers, to communicate to people that are not as diehard as us, who read the comics, who watch the shows, who follow everything within the MCU. The casual viewer, I try to think of somebody who is not as ingrained in going in depth with this as we are. Do they understand the entire aspect of the time travel and what they're doing and trying to accomplish? And yeah, if you loosely follow the MCU films and you only watch maybe a handful of them and you did watch Infinity War to Endgame, you get it. It was a giant, amazing crescendo and journey and story, and it closed the entire chapter of this piece of the MCU universe. And it did it in such a way, and when you get that moment at the end, when you get Falcon coming in, and you think Captain America is done, and you see all of the heroes emerging, and you have them almost playing football with the gauntlet and passing it around and trying to get it. Like, there is moments and moments in that film, and you rewatch it because you are looking for all of these little things that maybe you didn't pick up before. That's what I feel they do such an amazing job with. You get an entire journey and story arc of Tony from Iron Man 1, bringing it all the way full circle to the very end. And it made you cry and laugh and feeling just tense and nervous. it did everything that you wanted it to do. That's why I absolutely love Endgame, and I love it as much, and depending on the day of the week, I love it more than Infinity War. But I think it's going to be my 1A movie within there, that I'm going to say Infinity War is my absolute top, followed by Endgame. Then we're moving down, guys, into Avengers 1. Then it's going to be good as well with Civil War, and followed by Age of Ultron is a fine movie in general. I don't think it would be fair to say that there is any movie on this list that is just not okay, because I think they've all done their job in one respect to another. Let me know in the comments below, how would you rank these movies, just the Avengers movies? Give me your list. Tell me how you would rank these 5 films, just these 5. How would you put them all together? Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for Top Shelf Tuesday here on Assemble. I am Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching. Oh, right. There was one more thing. Oh, the S.H.I.E.L.D. classified documents. Well, I guess we have to get into that now, don't we? Ladies and gentlemen, you are getting a double XP today on Top Shelf Tuesday. And as part of a double XP event, we are doing another full round of ranking. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you are now in for the double XP. Thank you so much for staying on, because we are actually going through right now, and we're giving you a bonus piece of content right now on Top Shelf Tuesday. We're going to rank all of those amazing favorite Marvel MCU characters that we love over all of these movies, and we're going to get into that right now. All right, Ant-Man, first on the list, and obviously we're going S, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Ant-Man, I am putting as, remember, this is the characters within the MCU. So we gotta try and get these kind of like leveled out, because it's not dealing with the comics, it's not dealing with anything else, it's just the movies. That's all we're talking about, so don't hate me. Ant-Man, I'm putting in as, in terms of quality, the movies themselves, how the character is, I'm giving Ant-Man right now, and I may move him, he's gonna be more of a B or C level for me. I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. I think that they did a really good take on Ant-Man as a character. It's like kind of as best as anybody ever could for what you're getting. I think he was great within Endgame. Ant-Man and the Wasp and the first Ant-Man movie that came out, I was always finding that they were kind of like a 7.5 movie. They're good. They're good, fun MCU movies. But they're nothing groundbreaking, and I didn't find them anything spectacular. And he's always as more of a supporting character, which is totally great. So I'm going to put Ant-Man as C. Black Widow. Black Widow within the MCU itself is going to end up being A or B? A or B? Right now I'm going with, I think A. They defined her so well and did so much throughout the course of all of these movies. So it's hard to argue that you don't have a soft spot for Black Widow when it comes to any of the films, especially leading up to the very end. Black Widow is going to be an A for me, because I didn't think I would care about a character like that, especially when she was first introduced. I thought, okay, yeah, it's fine. I knew she was going to be a big deal, but I didn't think I would actually care that much about her. Captain America, A. First Avenger, very average film. And I think once they got that out of the way, they really figured out what they wanted to do with Cap going forward. And Captain America as a character, and it's just probably just me, but I had a hard time originally trying to get invested with him. And I didn't really care about Cap, because I'm like, okay, he's a super soldier. I've read about his backstory. I've gone through the comics. I've never clicked with Cap. But by the time like the entire MCU kept rolling, I started to really get it, and I started to really understand and click with Captain America and where he's coming from, and his overall stance on justice and what he stands for as a character. I think they did a good job, because they didn't make him too overpowering. They made him kind of dorky, which was good, so they humanized him even more so. I really liked Cap by the time we got all the way to Endgame, obviously, and then Endgame kind of like shifted everything. A. Captain Marvel. I'm putting Captain Marvel down as D. I found that the movie was fine. I thought that they did a serviceable job. I think it was hyped up pretty big. But I I don't really love the character within the MCU films. And the reason why I say that is because I feel that she's just too powerful. I understand what the film and her role was trying to do within the MCU films, but I also feel like you have this character that is more powerful than anybody and anything and can take out planets, and like we saw the damage she does within Endgame. And I'm like, yeah, she's not around and can't just show up anytime to, you know, help out the Avengers, but she's just in the background all the time, where I'm kind of feeling like, well, why don't you just call Captain Marvel and then she'll just destroy everything in 10 minutes and boom, you're done. Now I get it, you don't have a film and you can't just do that and it just destroys the narrative. But that's why I feel like it's a bit of a problem where you have a character that is that powerful. Thanos is powerful, but even Thanos has weaknesses or was taking a punch from the Hulk. You know, we can see damage done. Even Iron Man can make him bleed. Doesn't do very much, but at least he was able to do something. I just feel that the Captain Marvel character, I needed more. I got a great backstory out of it. The film I enjoyed, but it's not one that I go back to, and it's not one that I'm always eager to see is that character. Not the acting or anything, just the character itself within the MCU. Drax. I'm moving Drax up to B. I love Drax, and you're going to see how we're going to rank all of these when it comes to the Guardians themselves. I love Drax because as a supporting character, and Dave Bautista's acting in it, it's just perfect. It's perfect for what the character is. And every scene that I got to see Drax in, I enjoyed. And it all meant something. And as the character evolved throughout all of the movies, and especially in Infinity War, like, I love Drax in that. So I'm giving Drax a B because I just absolutely love his character work. Okay, Falcon. Another character that I'm like iffy on. I'm putting Falcon down as C. I really like him. I mean, I almost want to put him as B because I really like where they ended up with him. But if I'm ranking this honestly right now, I don't feel like Falcon's very high in my head because I get where he's coming from, but he is just a soldier who's got the tech. Granted, that's kind of Tony's MO. They've buddied him up with Cap. He is going to be the new Captain America if all things go down that path. I'm very excited for what he does with Falcon Winter Soldier. And I hope that will give me like more ammunition to get more invested in him. I don't really love it, and we didn't get a standalone Falcon movie. Now, again, the Disney series can change all of that and make you want to go back and rewatch everything, but he's a great supporting cast member, and that's why I rank him around the same as Ant-Man. Gamora. Gamora, I always enjoy, and again, Guardians of the Galaxy, it got me way more invested in Gamora as a character. Didn't love her at first, didn't really care. I didn't really know about the Guardians, and I never really read the comic books. So that first movie, I didn't really understand why they were going down that path, and why wouldn't you get a more known character or focus on, you know, the core MCU. But once we were done, I mean, I had an affinity with all of these characters, and I was way more invested in them. Groot, I'm putting down as C. I am Groot. Groot's great. Groot has very specific points within the story of the MCU. He's extremely important when it comes to Infinity War and Endgame, and you guys know why. But I mean, there's only so much you can do with a supporting cast character like that, but he fits perfectly within the Guardians. And I just love how Groot, with one line, can interact with all of these different characters. Hawkeye. Oh, Hawkeye. You are so interesting because he's so ingrained within the MCU. Oh, you think I'm going to put him as his top tier, don't you? No, I can't do that. I really like Hawkeye, but Hawkeye is going down into C. Sorry, Hawkeye. I enjoy you, but you are a man. You are a man, and that is all you are. You are a man with the bow. You are great with the bow. We got a ton of backstory when it came to Hawkeye, but I don't love Hawkeye. Hulk? Hulk is up there as A. We flushed out his character, and seeing iterations of the Hulk movies over and over again, and getting where we are at the end of the MCU, I was totally invested with what is somewhat of a one-dimensional character. Getting the Bruce Banner backstory, sure, you get the scientist component. Hulk as its own character, I felt like originally like I couldn't really get into that because it's Hulk. How can you have one movie? You need the supporting cast. That's where he does a fantastic job. But when we saw Thor Ragnarok, it really opened my eyes that I really could have a Hulk movie. Just another standalone Hulk with other characters supporting him but having the focus on Bruce Banner and the Hulk himself, because they really took him one step further. And then obviously when in Endgame, they went beyond that. So the development of Hulk over the years, I think just kept raising his stock for me. Tony Stark is top tier. From the initial Iron Man movie, I was sold. I've seen it go up and down, and Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 are not necessarily my favorite MCU movies. Maybe they are for you. But I didn't love 2 and 3. But I love Tony as a character and as that cornerstone character like Cap, but more so than Cap. There's not much to say about Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, as Tony Stark, is like perfect casting. It just fits flawlessly, in my opinion. Mantis. E for me, because Mantis is a supporting character. She's great in the movies, but I mean, we don't get enough time to really explore Mantis any more than that. Nebula. Nebula is, for me, is D. Didn't love Nebula. Very, very important to Guardians lore and great role within the MCU and Endgame and Infinity War. But I don't love her as a character, and it might be the acting or just how she comes across and portrayed in it. I mean, she's very serious throughout everything, and I get it that she's an AI and all of this stuff, but I didn't really click with Nebula that much. Black Panther. I'm moving Black Panther way up to A. At first, Black Panther, probably when he was first introduced, I'd probably put him down as a C character. Didn't care, but I didn't really follow Black Panther at all throughout any of the comics for the MCU. And to be frank, guys, when they announced, remember when they announced years and years ago when they said this is the plan of like all of the Marvel movies we're going to do, and Black Panther was announced as one of them? I was just like, I didn't understand it at all. I'm like, why are you giving me a Black Panther and a Doctor Strange movie and a Guardians of the Galaxy movie? Didn't understand any of it, and I wasn't invested. Then I watched the introduction of Black Panther. Then I watched the Black Panther movie. Then I get to see him throughout the MCU in Civil War and Endgame, Infinity War, and all of this. And I loved it. And I love him as a character, and I love the culture, and I love his backstory and what it all stands for, and the tech, and just, I think the acting's great too. So A for Black Panther. Rocket. B. I love Rocket. Snappy, witty, a jerk. But his ability to, I guess, have that relationship with the Guardians, feeling like he wants to be an outsider, but he enjoys being with the group. His relationship that snowballs with Thor, I love. Like, give me more of that. That's all I want. So I'm putting Rocket really high. Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch I find is more of a C character for me. I'm curious what they're going to do with Scarlet Witch and Vision as a series. I don't care for the relationship between her and Vision. It didn't really do anything for me. I felt like it was just kind of there. I really feel that Scarlet Witch is a great supporting cast member, but I rank her like along the lines of Hawkeye, where I'm like, I can kind of take it or leave it. But I enjoyed her like throughout the Marvel movies. Spider-Man is no doubt going to be S tier as a top tier. Need I say more? No, we're not talking about the Raimi films. We're talking about MCU Spider-Man. Perfect. Introduction, amazing. It is a really, really big testament to how well the MCU handles this, how Disney and Marvel Studios handle a character like Spider-Man coming in towards the tail end of the MCU, like all of these films that we've experienced, and how you can just put Spider-Man in and everyone is fine. I always feel like that's such a worrying concern for studios of like, well, how do we get Spider-Man into an MCU movie and not make it an origin story? Like, we don't need that. And we understood that when we got his introduction here and Homecoming and on and on. Spider-Man is going to be top of the list. Tom Holland, perfect for Spider-Man. Star-Lord. Star-Lord. I like him very much, but I don't love him. I put him on par with all of the Guardians. He's great when you're putting him up with Thor and Rocket and the Guardians. He's great in that universe, and that's why I put the movies here, because I don't have the love and lust for Guardians overall. I love them now, and I appreciate them all now as characters that have been really well defined and well crafted. But Star-Lord, I mean, came in and I had no previous knowledge really, and I really, really enjoyed him, but I don't enjoy him as much as if I had say, Black Panther, Spider-Man, or Tony. Doctor Strange. Now, I have a soft spot for Doctor Strange. That Doctor Strange #1 comic over there. I enjoy Doctor Strange. The Doctor Strange movie got me by surprise. I don't know about you guys, but let me know in the comments below, how did you feel about this one? Doctor Strange movie, I was like, oh, it's gonna be a 6. Like, it's gonna be, nah, not really good at all. Maybe he's gonna be an F. Don't know. I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed the Doctor Strange origin story, how they used him within Infinity War and Endgame. I think it was a really good call, and they've defined him very, very well within the MCU. I'm putting up Doctor Strange as B, because I think that I'm more curious what they do with Doctor Strange 2 in this phase of the MCU, where we're getting a lot more of the mystical magic stuff. Like, we're getting a little bit more into the dimensions. I am very curious how they can keep elevating Doctor Strange. Thor, top tier. Dark World is a bad movie. We've talked about this before. Go watch the previous episodes. That's a bad film. And the original Thor movies are bad. Like, if you can go back and redo all of this, I think you would try to redo those films with how we have developed Thor as a character now, where he's funny and emotional and he has depth and range. I think now we are all invested in Thor. Could care less about Thor from the comics and growing up. Would never even want to know about a Thor story. I don't care about the cosmic god and lightning and all of this. I didn't have any relationship with so many of these characters growing up. And Thor would have always been just down on my list, and I'm like, great, he's a god, he fights guys in space. But they made me care about Thor, and movie and film after film, and as it kept going and going and progressing, you just enjoyed him so much more. Thor is on the top. Vision! I don't care about Vision. He's an AI. Just Vision doesn't do it for me. It's a good character, but for as powerful as he is supposed to be, you get the crap kicked out of him in most of these movies. Like, I thought he was supposed to be so powerful, like Ultron. And I feel like he couldn't do anything when he was just fighting any of Thanos' guys. Really, really excited to see what they do with WandaVision. Maybe they can flesh it out more. Very much like Falcon. Can you bring it out more so I can care more? But I don't feel like I got there at all with Vision. I just can't relate, and I don't really care whether he was in the MCU or not that much. Great character, I get it, but not invested enough. War Machine. I just love War Machine's suit. I just love that. I've always loved that as a kid. Remember in the animated series, Spider-Man animated series, when they brought in War Machine finally, when he fought Carnage with Iron Man? They brought in Iron Man with Spider-Man and War Machine and Carnage and Venom, and like, God, could you please go back and watch that? It's on Disney Plus right now. That's a shout out for Disney Plus. Please go back and watch that, because and Doctor Strange is in there too. There's so much going on in like that whole arc. But they brought in War Machine. War Machine throughout the movies. Again, he's grown bigger and bigger and bigger, where I'm invested in him as a character. I think they've done really great work with him as a supporting character to Iron Man. They didn't make him feel cheap. They didn't make him feel like an Iron Man knockoff in any way. I don't know if I could handle a War Machine movie on its own necessarily, but I've grown to appreciate him in every single film, that he is a cornerstone and a really, really core piece to the MCU, in my opinion. I just like him overall. The Winter Soldier, Bucky, last one on the list, guys. And Bucky is probably gonna be around here, same level, C. I really like the backstory between Bucky and Cap. I like how they brought that together. I love the Winter Soldier movie so much, and I love how they introduced him. But I felt like the movie itself really kind of went down a little bit for me in certain parts, where because they humanized him and because they wanted to talk about Bucky's backstory and relationship with Cap, I really like the opening bit with Winter Soldier of how badass he is and how he has the mask on. He is so much stronger than Cap. Like, he's just an assassin. Like, I love how they did that in the first bit. I just wish that they kept it going a little bit more. He's a great supporting cast member, in my opinion, to the MCU, and that's why I put him on the same level as Falcon and Ant-Man and the rest. So ladies and gentlemen, you have had it. You have gone through, and that is the Assemble MCU character rankings. And obviously there are way more characters within the MCU. We can totally go back and revisit this. And for today, This is going to be our defining list of the MCU characters. What do you think? Rip it apart in the comments below. Let me know how you would rank all of this. I hope you enjoyed your double XP bonus on Top Shelf Tuesday, and I hope you guys will come back and stay tuned for more episodes. This week, we are doing an unboxing of Uncharted's Drake, and we hope that you guys will watch that. And then we have our Free-for-All Friday where we talk to the community and the best friends. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, and like always, thank you for assembling with us. See ya. I'm going to get destroyed in the comments with this. I have no idea. People are going to rip it absolutely apart.